Sis, I want you to stop for a moment and really take it in that we have about less than 60 days, right? Now, I know that in this time, a lot of us want to go into the new year, new me, right? And that's okay. I'm not saying that's wrong. But what I'm saying is what is the motivation for where you want to go? What's the why? Why is this change so important to you? Because that's what's going to carry you through the hard times. I think a lot of times we go on these glow up journeys or we go on these unrecognizable journeys like I'm doing right now in my course. And as we go on these journeys, a lot of times we don't really ever define our why. We know our where. I know where I want to go, but why do I want to go there? Because it's that why that's going to carry me even when everything else around me is saying quit. When everything else around me doesn't feel like it. When everything else around me doesn't want to do it. Because can I be honest to say there are so many times in my walk with God, in this journey where I just simply don't want to do it. I simply don't feel like showing up. But then it's in those moments where you come back to the why. Okay, why are you doing this, Takaya? Why are you doing this, sis? Why is this goal of like, we have a lady in our inner circle who wants to hit a 20K month. And I was talking to her. I said, I want you to start saying this every day. I'm so excited that I'm getting ready to make this 20K month in my bridal business where I make women feel so beautiful, so loved. And I get to also help my husband to be able to take off a financial pressure from him. Now I'm going to have more time freedom with my daughter. I'm going to be able to do more for the glory of God. And I am going to be able to do this with ease and breeze. Now, you see how like we got very specific in this. We didn't just want to make a dollar amount. We got down to the why. What is this going to do for me? How is this going to change the lives of others? I think a lot of times we don't even think about that because a lot of times we're just stuck up in our own stuff. We're stuck up in, oh, well, I want to make more money, because I want to pay my bills. But what about the lives that are going to be affected? Like me launching this unrecognizable course. Okay, why was that course so important for you to launch, sis? Because I know what it's like to become unrecognizable. And I want to help so many women to be able to reinvent themselves. For so many women to get to a space where they can really just see themselves the way God sees them. Where they can see themselves as their true identity versus the counterfeit they've been living in because of abandonment, because of rejection, because of unworthiness. So you see how my why behind that. What's your why behind becoming unrecognizable? What's your why behind becoming unbreakable, unstoppable by stepping into all that God has for you? Because tangibly in doing this, right? Now we understand that this is where I want to go, right? But then there's the steps that we got to take to get there. And I think a lot of times we don't even really think about the process. Now in this process, one of the things that I've had to really go through, and I think it's also another one of those hard things, is the shedding process. Let's talk about the shedding process. When you are up-leveling your life or when you are transforming your life, I'm going to tell you, you're about to shed like nobody's business, right? You're going to lose relationships. Why? Because these relationships are no longer aligned with who God is calling, creating you to be. We see this even in the Bible that there were people they had to leave behind at times. Abraham had to leave behind his family because his family no longer where he was, no longer aligned with the purpose and plan of God. And so oftentimes we have a hard time processing that betrayal. We have a hard time processing that hurt because now God is bringing us into this space where it's more aligned with what God has called us to do. But for me to get into alignment with God, I have to also think about the fact that there may be some people I got to let go. There may be some things that I got to let go. But it's about getting in alignment. It's about getting into the flow, getting into what God has for you. And a lot of times we want to take people with us. We see that with Abraham. He wanted to take Lot with him. And, all these unnecessary things happen because of who he was trying to take with him. And so many times, ladies, the reason why we go through things that we would have never had to go through is because we want to take people with us that God said to leave behind because they are no longer in alignment. So as we're talking about becoming unrecognizable, or as we're talking about changing our lives, I want you to think about what relationships no longer aligned with this version of you. Maybe some of your relationships, maybe there's some conversations that need to be had to be like, hey, sis, I'm getting ready to go on this journey to change my life. And I would love for you to be a part of this journey. But I do want to let you know there's going to be some new boundaries. I am going to start saying no more. There are things we used to do we can't do anymore because I'm getting into alignment. As I was sitting there in coaching session with my spiritual father today, we were talking about, six-figure me to seven-figure me. And I was praying to God, like, okay, God, what's the disconnect on my seven figures? And he said, Takaya, I want you to think about this vending machine, right? And I think this is going to bless y'all too. But he said, I want you to think about this vending machine. And he said, if you see this vending machine and even though it looks great on the inside, you see all the food there, you see all these things there, and it looks perfect. It looks great, but it has a big old sign that says out of order. Are you putting your money into there? Well, no. Why? Because you're not going to be able to get anything out of it. But Takaya, it looks good. Sis, it looks good, right? Yeah, it may look good, but it's out of order. And I think that so many of us, we look good on the outside, but we're out of order. And we're like, God, why is there no more flow in my life? Why am I not going to my next level? Why does it seem like I'm in a plateau or stagnation? Because we never sit to think, God, what has gotten out of order? What in my life do I need to get in order? Because I sat there, realized that, okay, Takaya, if you are struggling to manage your time, or if you're struggling to be able to say no or set boundaries while you're making six figures, how do you think it's going to be when you go to the next level? Because it's not getting any lighter. So if you can't even balance the level you're on, are you really ready for your seven-figure level? Now, some of you right now, you're barely balancing the load you have, and you're like, Father, give me more, Father, give me more. But on the outside, you look great. But again, it goes back to big old plaster sign, out of order. So why would I put more into you, my daughter? You know, the Bible says if you're faithful with a little, he can trust you with much, right? But if we are out of order and we've not been faithful in what God has already given to us, then sis, how are we going to become unrecognizable? How are we going to become unbreakable? How are we going to become unstoppable? How are we really going to change the trajectory of our family? Change these last few months, days that we have left in 2024? Because what? Because we didn't get in order. So what is out of order? Maybe your relationships no longer are in alignment with where God is taking you. And is that okay? Maybe what you're doing right now, maybe it's not in alignment with who you want to be. Because if this version of you that you want to be has time freedom, but where you are right now, we're acting in wisdom, yes. But hear my heart. What can I do right now to start creating more space, more time freedom in my life, to enjoy my life, to be able to have the capacity to receive what God has for me? You know, the Bible tells us that God desires for us to find enjoyment in all of our labors. And I think that so many Christians, we grace over that because we buy into this, oh, if I'm broken, if I'm in trials and tribulations all the time, and if I'm suffering, and if I'm depressed, and if everything is going wrong, then I'm humble. But that's a lie, because humility is when I'm in alignment with what God said. And God says, I want you to find enjoyment in all your labor. I may not always like some of the things that I have to do in the Sis You Need, my company, right? I may not always like some of the things I have to do in what I'm doing, but you know what? Because God told me I can find joy, I can look for joy in that. So how are you going to look for joy in the end of this year? How are you going to look for joy in this unrecognizable? That even though I may have lost some relationships, now I have the capacity to receive even better relationships. People who value me and not tolerate and celebrate me. Like, how can I create more space? So ladies, I want to encourage you to create space for what you're praying to God for. That is, you are praying to God to shift in this year. Because right now we're entering into such a divine shift. I truly believe we're in a season where wealth is just going to be transferred and released, or at least for myself. I'm always the person where I'm like, okay, I can feel you doing something, Holy Spirit, and I'm going to catch you if nobody else catches it. Sis, comment if you feel that, like you just know there's a change. And it's not because it's January 1st, because I get these inklings throughout the year. And I'm the person that it doesn't matter what time of year it is. I believe you can change your life at any given time. I truly believe that to the core of my being. And so ladies, I challenge you with that. How can you find enjoyment in everything? How can you get into alignment? How can you get into order? Maybe right now where you're at, you're struggling to balance that load. So then I want to encourage you, how can you start finding balance in this load? How can you find balance in where God has you at, sis? Because as you're praying for the more, if you cannot balance, if you cannot handle where you are now, are you really in order, in alignment for your next? Okay. So ladies, I love y'all so much. You can get my course Unrecognizable at thesisyouneed.co. But I pray this blessed you. Let me know if y'all want more videos like this. Either way it go, I'm going to start just putting more videos out like this, because I truly just believe that God is calling me to counsel my sisters. through their next, through what he's called them to do. And I know I've done this on TikTok, and I know I've done it on all these other apps, but now I really want to branch out and really take this YouTube thing seriously. So y'all just let me know if this blessed y'all, okay? Love y'all. Bye.